Like it or not, I was termed the least likely to succeed by most of my lecturers in university. And before you say, oh, I think they're mean, I graciously earned that position. I mean, looking out in the audience today and seeing how many of you are sat here, you would probably never find me in halls like this back then in school, because I just didn't, really pay attention to academics. And while some people might be like, having a degree is not the end of the world, the people who have become world leaders and most successful people without any, back then, we all know how it is. Growing up in an African family, it was the one thing you owed your family to get a degree. And I know that for so many of you in here, you probably think public speaking will come very easy for me because I've been doing this for quite a number of years. I mean, having a media career that spans out over 13 years, this would seem like a piece of cake. But you know what? It really isn't. Before you get on any stage, the nerve's kicking. Before you decide to deliver a speech, you ask yourself, I hope that, I'm articulate, and I hope that, I connect and get across the room what I've come here to do today. And I know that we're all talking about networking, but no one really talks about how hard it is to get out of your own way. That's where it first starts. You have all these brilliant ideas. You know exactly what it is you want to say when you meet that person. You know how you want to conduct yourself and exactly what you think you're going to get from it. But at the moment where it's about to be the presentation point, sometimes we freeze. And it's normal. It happens to the best of the best, like it or not. And today I thought, let's talk about how we can get past our own selves. Because it's not really the person from the village that is doing you. Even if a lot of times we like to think that our circumstances, even though we are the sum of our experiences and our environments and where we're from. And unless you have, or you were born into a certain social class, this saying, opportunity meets preparedness. You have to be prepared and then the opportunity comes. Like it or not, a lot of people have been prepared for years and they just never find that opportunity. So sweethearts in this room, you're going to have to go out to get it sometimes. And that starts with you. All the lies of I'm not capable, all the lies of, oh, you know what, why would they even look at this, my proposal? Why would they even listen to me? I mean, hearing him literally talk about all the accolades, I thought, really? And I remembered my third year in university. I'll tell you a little story. That was literally the point where my life changed. As I started, I played through uni. I belonged to a girl club, so I was sociable. I probably knew how to network without knowing that that was what it was called. But I just didn't feel like applying myself to my studies. I didn't think, I knew I was intelligent because, when I was born, you hear stories about how you were the top of your class. I started schooling when I was 1, but I wasn't ready for life and the foundational change that shook my world when I was 8. And later on in life, I found out, that grief therapy was something because back then, nobody really talked about, grief therapy. So it started to show itself in different parts of my life. One major part was my education. I went from being at the top of my class to being at the bottom of my class. Literally, there'll be 57 people in class, and Toke Makinwa will come 56 or 57. And I'd gotten accustomed to being the backseat person, the one who, you see those guys who come first and think, yeah, they're weirdos, and then you just don't want to apply yourself. And I remember going to check my result for the first time, like it or not, and I've never shared this story. I never really checked my result till my 3rd year in university. And I saw ADW, which was advice to withdraw. I had flunked so bad that my grades were so bad that the school had actually asked me to withdraw. And then, standing at that board, I was introduced to something called choice. I could either sink or swim. All of a sudden, the words of my mother came ringing in my ear. You would end up being a pepper seller by the roadside, or you would be a tailor. Now, tailors these days, they're rolling in the big box, right? But she didn't mean those ones. She meant the roadside tailor. Because if you don't read, that's where you end up. And at the point where I saw advice to withdraw, I could see those people that I would laugh at, who were the first to sit in class, who were the first to raise their hands to ask questions, who were the first to apply themselves, I could see them pass me by while I was selling the pepper. Honestly, I have a vivid imagination, guys. It runs wild. I saw them coming to drop their clothes for me while I was a tailor by the roadside. And it didn't really feel good. And at that point, the feeling of failure expired. And I said to myself, how do I get out of this hole? For some of you, you might not be being advised to withdraw. You might be killing it, in terms of your academics. For some people, it might be public speaking, just not being able to stand up and express the way they feel. How do you get out of your own way? One of the meanest lecturers was in my department. Everyone feared this man, and the keys to succeeding laid in this man's hands. Dr. Adedun, I'll never forget. I thought to myself, do I just act like this didn't happen? Or am I going to have to bring myself out of my own shame, eat the humblest pie, and knock on his door? And of course I knocked on the lecturer. He was a senior lecturer, and the first thing he said, I've never seen you before. He thought I was coming to argue for a misplaced grade or coming to say that my result was missing. I was worse. I didn't have a result. I was advised to withdraw. And having the courage to say to him, the school didn't happen, I happened. I froze. There was no public speaking. I mean, I read English language. You'd obviously know how to negotiate yourself out of tough situations. But this one time, there was none. It was me looking at this man who everyone was terrified of and saying to him, I'm literally going to die if you don't help me. Of course, he kicked me out of his office. Like, the way I was even dressed, he probably thought, you're clearly not, cut out for this. And he said, go and meet the dean. I went to the dean's office, and I knew the dean was going to send me right back to him. He didn't even see me. But for 10 days, I showed up. Guys, the power of showing up. Sometimes you might not have it figured out, but you owe it to yourself to show up. Sometimes you might not even know what you're going to say, or you have a whole thing written out, and you're walking there, and as one of our speakers said, it completely flies out of your head. And at least she had eye drops to save the occasion. What do you do when there's nothing? But showing up sometimes, finding that confidence. I'll tell you where it all comes from, the man in the mirror. I learned the most from my failures than I've ever learned from my successes. I mean, those days when I hosted the 25th edition of the Most Beautiful Girl of Nigeria, it was a total disaster. It was live TV, which was very difficult. And no matter how you prepared yourself, nothing prepares you for when you're running out of time or when, the slides freeze. And in that case, you're all on a time frame and you have to deliver. It was a disaster. But I got better on the job by showing up. I wake up in the morning and say, I might not be the best, but I am my own best. And as long as I keep putting one foot in front of each other, eventually they will take note of this girl. Even when I started out in my career, I was tagged MTN everywhere you go. Because I was the girl that would always be everywhere, believing in people thought I just liked going out. I just really liked being in front of the camera. No. I would always remember that third year in university and remember how I felt and showing up for 10 days to someone who said he wasn't going to help me. Till the last day, he was probably tired of being bothered by me. And he helped me because he wanted to help me, but he just did not want me to show up anymore. We all know those stories where they say you harass somebody. I'm not saying that this is time for you to pull out your phone and start harassing your lecturers or people who you think have told you they can't help you. But, whatever you have to do to get that audience, however you have to do it, it might not be what the next person had to do. You have to find your own comfort zones and in what, is easy for you. And to be honest, who really wants the easy way out? Because everything you get easily, you don't really appreciate. And even if you think it's a lie, who wants to struggle? I don't want to go back to my struggle years. As I said on here, those were the years that built the woman that is standing right in front of you. I remember the moment where they all sat together and decided to give me another opportunity based purely on humanitarian grounds. Luckily for me, the professor of mass comm was an uncle of mine. And he was sat in that room when they tabled the matter of this Makinwa girl who's been advised to withdraw but is begging for a second chance. And he said, I know her. And he shared the story of how I lost both my parents when I was 8. And I guess they were all moved to give me the second chance. But it didn't happen overnight because I had to literally take 2 years back. Nobody likes to repeat, but that was me. I literally watched all my colleagues or all my classmates back then who, I thought I was better than, graduates, go to NYSC, and I was still trying to get out of school. Luckily for me, you all worked out. I learned to apply myself. And in the end, I learned that the power of choice, which, I made on that singular day, is still what drives me to today. So when I'm faced with an opportunity to meet people or to present a proposal or to call for a job, because like it or not, it still happens. And in the world of acting, I'm fairly new. And I know that people will look at you as someone who's built a wealth of career in the media and think that it will come easy. No. It's actually a very cruel, hard industry. And no one gives you the opportunity. And as I said earlier, unless you were born with a silver spoon where it's literally, your life is in blueprint, you know exactly what's going to happen, you have the connections to call, you know how the opportunity is going to come your way. If that's who you are, guess what? Life still has a way of showing up. We have people who have those excellent opportunities, and when they're even given the opportunity, they literally fall flat on their face. Life will always have a way of throwing you that curveball and building the confidence, which is easier said than done, to be honest. But I will talk to you guys about practical steps that helped me in my life to build my confidence. Apart from staring in the mirror and telling myself that, what's the worst thing that can happen? Let's get practical here. Okay, they would say no, right? It hurts to hear no. I'm feeling rejected. But it's what I do with that rejection that determines how my life goes. I can sit in my room for the next 2 weeks and ask myself why me and why this opportunity wasn't given to me. Or I can be honest with myself and say there's 1,001 people who are looking for this same opportunity that you're looking for. Why should it be you? Maybe when you flip the question, you'll find the answer. The moment I started doing that in my career, why should it be you? Why should they give you the opportunity? There's 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 more people that can do the same job. I'm not saying they can do it better than I can, but let's just say they're not here. Who knows? Do you know what I mean? But then when I started to say to myself, why you? Then you begin to really, really write your strength and your weakness. And you cannot afford to lie to yourself. The world can lie to you, but the moment you start to lie to yourself, you've lost it all completely. You really have. I am the most honest person I can be to myself. So if it's that you need to work on communicating more. So when you meet that person that you need, people don't have time. They're not trying to be mean. But why should they really listen to you, to be honest? We all know how 24 hours is not even enough. And everyone has what they're battling with. So you meet someone who might have this bright, shiny idea. But if they cannot translate that to you in the first 5, 10, some people are even nice. They can give you 15 minutes. But 5 minutes max, the person has started thinking about what else they've got going on. So you have to literally now tell yourself, what is my biggest selling point? Is it my smile? Is it how I comport myself? Is it, the way I speak? Is it being knowledgeable about this particular project? Why should they listen to me? Start with that. If you're knowledgeable about it, maybe you can let them know the wealth of knowledge you've, gained over the years and why you're the best person for the job. If you're not knowledgeable about it, you don't have to tell them you're not. You can also be honest. Honesty has worked for me. You can be honest enough to be like, you know what? My ability to learn, my ability to acquire knowledge is second to none. And I find that sometimes, networking doesn't necessarily have to happen in all these straight jackets places where you think you have to come and say, good afternoon, sir. So I've been following you for a while. So I think that I want to do this. And sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's also knowing about the person and knowing a need that they might have in their establishment and knowing if you can fulfill that need and pulling together the people in your circle. There's a famous saying that goes, if you want to go fast, you go alone, right? But if you want to go far, you have to check the quality of people that are in your life. The company you keep sometimes, if you look at all the list of your friends and you know that all of you guys can't help yourselves, bro, sis, you might need to find friendship elsewhere. Or you might need to just label those boxes and know that, okay, these ones are just for hanging out. When I want to hang out, I can call on these people and we have a great time. And these next people are the people that can motivate me. I can literally be honest and naked with them to say, I want to do this. You tell me what you think. And lastly, do not be afraid of hearing feedback. I think that's where we all freeze. Nobody wants to be told your work is not good enough. Now, while I know that not everyone who tells you that you're not good enough is correct, I'll give you another personal story. Before I started out in the media industry, I was in banking. I knew I wasn't meant to be in banking. But I did it because at that point, it's like, okay, you graduate from school, you get your NYC done. My foster father was close to the MD of a bank, and it was one of those conversations where he said, okay, my daughter is serving, let her serve at your bank. And from there, I was retained. Horrible years. My alarm would go off every morning, and I would think, I looked like I didn't even belong in the bank. At MPR's meeting, they would literally take 5 minutes to descend on me and be like, do you think this place is a fashion show? All you come to work is my TM Lewin shirts back days, my skirts, my heels, because that's what I thought I knew how to do best and to look pretty. But when it came to this accounting, I was just like, okay. Luckily for me, I was at the head office where I did not need to bring in accounts, but you had to manage existing accounts. And I was in the Dangote group. And I remember each time I would go to Dangote's office and I would, just sit down with Alhaji Sani and be begging them, please don't take your money away. Please, this is where my life depends on it. But I wasn't meant to be in the bank. So I left this particular bank because another uncle of mine was the MD of another bank and they wanted to rebrand. It was an old, archaic bank. And for some reason, they felt like, getting young people with young ideas was the way to move forward. And I started working here. And before you get retained, you go through a training process for 3 months. You write an exam, and you must make 50 points for you to get to the next level. And this exam was not just technical. They literally trained you on everything. Working at a bank, you have to learn how to network. You have to learn how to, manage. I don't like to call them difficult clients, but you all know what I'm trying to talk about. People that require more patience, basically. And I remember going, that's the only way you can say it, right? My training then wouldn't have me call somebody a difficult client. And even as a business owner, you can't really say that about your clients because they're putting money in your pocket. So even as they're disrespectful to you, there's a skill that you have to learn to maintain that patience, because if you decide to act out, it is your business that's going to be in question. So before I digress, I remember writing this exam, and I had the backing. My uncle was the MD, who was going to tell me nothing. I knew I was going to get in. And I had 48 out of 50. And my uncle did not retain me. It was shameful. Everybody knew that I was his niece. So it's like everybody's saying, oh, they posted me, and what happened to you? The girl in front of the advice to withdraw came again. The girl who was afraid and ashamed. And I didn't know how to even tell them that I wasn't retained. And I remember getting home and thinking, why would uncle do this to me? I called him, he didn't pick. I tried to see him, no access. I was hurt for so many years. And then I obviously didn't get that job. One day my siblings just said to me, you know what, your flair has always been entertainment. Why don't you go back to it? It was a lot of reprogramming my mind, getting a paradigm shift again to think in a different way. Because after rejection, no one talks about how difficult it is to pick yourself up again. And I started going for these auditions. Rhythm called me back, and my radio career started. Now, many years down the line, I was on the cover of a magazine. I walked into a family event, and this uncle had bought 20 pieces of that magazine. And he walked up to me and said, I didn't retain you because I was doing you a favor. I knew you were in banking material. This is what you're meant to be doing. Now, a part of me just thought, I beg you, if I had failed. Imagine if I had failed. Is this what this man would tell me right now? And why did I share that story with you? They say failure is a bastard. Success has plenty fathers. And being successful is a deliberate effort. It's a choice you have to make. Regardless of how hard it is, how difficult it is for you to go and talk to that person that you know can help you, you have to find a way to say, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? I've failed before, I didn't die, right? Okay, this person will say no. No has to stop being you're not good enough. No has to mean maybe not my time, or maybe it's not meant to happen this way. And I've had so many series of events in my life to back this theory up. If I didn't believe it, I wouldn't share it. Half the things that have been shot in my face and half the no's that I've gotten actually made me a better public speaker. All the auditions I'll go for, and they'll just be like, no, no, no. I used to cry in the beginning, but at some point, I would say to myself, okay, what did you learn from this? And then I'll start to practice. And it might not be in public speaking for you, but practicing can mean different things. Practicing can mean you not literally giving up on that dream. You can take some time to cool off, but getting back on it. Because as I said, failure is a bastard. If you fail, there will be no uncle with magazines or aunties with magazines or anyone giving you comforting words. As Burna Boy says, you go explain, tire, no evidence. Truly, no evidence. So today I wanted to talk to you about the power of choice, making the choice to rise when everything around you is literally telling you it won't work. Making the choice to make friends, because we don't talk about how hard it is. Some of us have been burnt by certain friendships in the past, and even in the work environment. And I know that university is such an amazing place. Enjoy this space. It's such a covering. You see, the outside world after uni, no one prepares you for the shock. Everything you think you're learning here that doesn't really matter in your life, trust me, would come to play a part at some point in your journey. So my banking life prepared me to wake up early, because later on in life, I was on the most important radio show on any radio station, the early morning drive. Even if I hated the process, the people that I met, difficult, nice, they helped me to manage people. You manage people you meet on the job, you manage people you meet at events, you manage people even on your journey. And no matter how successful you think you've become, the art of networking never stops. It's a skill. Even Dangote still networks till tomorrow. Trust me, it does. You might think that it's gotten to a point in his life where people will have to come to meet him, but I'm sure there's something he will need. And there's a phone call he will need to make and someone he will need to talk to about something. And it's not everything he probably gets a yes to. You probably don't hear about the failures because all you see is how successful he is right now. But trust me, if you sat with him and he told you a day in his life and how much he can lose in the stock market, some of us might collapse. We literally can. So being deliberate means showing up, as I said. You literally have to act like you know what. Sometimes, you know how Jay-Z will say he will sell water to a well. Sometimes, even if the packaging is not, I believe in faithing it till you make it. I tell it all the time. Not faking it till you make it, or faithing. Listen, even if it is not fully there, just knowing that, okay, if I get an opportunity in this door, what am I going to do to make me memorable? How am I going to have them feeling? And it's also an exchange. Nobody wants to pick up the phone of someone who all they want is to get help every time. What are you also doing to become the person that people want to network with? Getting ahead of yourself, it means literally telling yourself, okay, even if I hear no, guess what? No is not going to be the end of the world. I will try again. And as cliche as it might sound, I know we've all heard this before, the people around you that will tell you, yes, you know, I suffered, eventually I made it. There are people who don't eventually make it, but we're not going to talk about those today because the whole key of this exercise is to get us to think in one way that it can be done. And it really can be done. It really can be done. You literally have to always know who you are, know exactly what it is you want outside of a situation. No one wants to do something just because they want to do it. So even if it's in getting that next gig or getting that tech job or actually being in the field that I'm in, it's one of the hardest fields to thrive and survive in. And God knows, 13 years of being in this industry, I can tell you the doggedness, even when you think they are your people, Even when you think that the job is yours, even when you think you've done the job and it's, nothing is going to change this, anything can happen. Life will always throw those curveballs. But if you remember who you are, and you learn from those moments where we're not the most pleasant, but how you got past them, there's always in there that leaves you feeling like there's more. So whenever you're faced at crossroads and there's a choice that has to be made, choose you. Choose showing up. Regardless of what people around you will say, okay, you've tried this cake business, you've been baking for 5 years, you don't have clients enough, keep putting out that content. Even if you just have 5 likes, trust me, someone is watching. People are evil. They might not support you when they don't know you. But the day you blow, it's funny how you see many people in your DM saying, I always knew this was going to happen. I always, look at Hilda. When Hilda won the Guinness Book of Records, do you know how many people celebrated her? If she did not win, do you know how many people will look away and act like that did not happen? A lot of people probably got to know her from that singular event. But prior to that, she's been doing what she's been doing. So when the applause is not there, keep showing up. When you feel like it's only one like, and why will someone listen to me, or why would I get that job, as, why would I even put in this application? It's not my type that goes there. Nobody in my family made it out of the hood. We can always tell ourselves many reasons why it would not work. And I think it's safe. Yes, everybody wants to be safe. Who wants to literally bear themselves out there to think, I have this fantastic idea, and you walk in the room and you make the presentation and nobody even thinks it's a great idea. They think, maybe not for this crowd. It's tough, but failure needs to mean more to you. Honestly, because in my life, personally, I've learned so much more. The applause is great. When people say, oh, you did this, you did that, it's great. At some point, you have psycho fans, and those ones are not the ones that will tell you the real truth. So you see, rock bottom is a place where you can start to build from. And it's always a good idea. I'm not saying fail. I'm saying stop looking at failure as the worst thing that can happen to you. Maybe you will then get out of your own head. Maybe if you look at it as a path to your journey of success and not the destination. And in my life right now, I've learned to always share with people, as I do regularly. We always think the goalpost, the final destination, is really what matters, but it's the journey. The journey, the people you meet, the networking, the friends you build, the associations you keep. These are the people that would be standing there at the end to really tell the story of your life. So make it count, guys. Thank you so much for having me. And I always say this, I always write this on all of my community. When I share things, I'm like, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So now I actually get to say it in real life. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Thank you.